Welcome back. Before we get started, I'd like to give an update. My subscription has been growing and the viewership has just started to tick up a bit. Let's keep this trend going as we try to get to the viewership of 10,000 views per video. And yes, increase my subscription base to over 1,000. Now let's get to Alara and her trials.
Title: Chronicle of the Seers Orb. A story by Ariel Sparks. A novel first draft. Copyright Ariel Sparks 2025. Chapter 10. Trials of the Seer. Ready for the start of your next great adventure, Alara. Adana's voice a tranquil resonance, to soothe Alara's restless rustle. Alara was gathering her scrolls in her satchel. For her first day of trials, she looks up and says, "I am not quite sure, but I think my preparations are sufficient for what I am about to face." The morning air was as fresh as the spring morn, the dew a gentle kiss upon the leaves that seemed to call her name. The sun had barely peeked over the horizon, casting long shadows that danced with the song of the ancients. Alara felt a shiver of anticipation run down her spine as she stepped out of the grand chamber, her eyes drawn to the tower in the distance that stood sentinel beside the sheer cliff face of the caldera. Adana's steps were silent as they approached the base of the tower. It soared into the heavens like a petrified tree, its stones as ancient and steadfast as the knowledge they guarded. The young man who awaited them at the tower's entrance was as unassuming as a mote on the wind. His frame was slight, his skin the color of rich, dark soil, and his eyes as warm as the sun's first kiss upon the savannah. "Alara, this is Kwali," Adana introduced him with a warm smile, "our youngest guardian, but one of the most astute when it comes to the art of perception." The young man dipped his head in a respectful nod. "It is an honor to meet you, young seer," he said, in a soft voice. Alara returned the gesture, "And I you, Kwali." Feeling a curious blend of excitement and trepidation. "Your first trial, young seer, is one of perception," Kwali stated. "Ah, the art of noticing what goes unnoticed," Alara mused, her eyes scanning the vibrant tapestry of the forest, each leaf and petal speaking secrets only the most observant could discern. "Indeed," Adana agreed with a knowing smile. "The words of the ancients speak of your keen eye. It is said that the seer's orb called out to you from afar, as if it recognized a kindred spirit." Kwali led them into the tower, the air thick with the hum of 1,000 unseen elements. The room was circular, with a single beam of light piercing the gloom from a high window, casting a ray of light onto the stone floor. In the center stood a pedestal, upon which rested an object covered by a velvet cloth. "What do you sense, Alara?" he urged. "The object's true nature is not merely skin deep," Kwali continued. "You must peer beneath the veil, Alara, and let your intuition guide you." Alara took a tentative step closer, her heart beating in time with the sounds that echoed around the chamber. The velvet cloth was as rich and deep as the stories of the ancients themselves, yet it seems to point to something else, something that did not belong to the earthly realm. The edges of the cube were as sharp and unyielding as the truths she had been taught, but the way it had settled on the pedestal spoke of a symmetry that was almost organic in its grace. "Ah, a square tile, set beneath the cloth," she exclaimed, her voice filled with the excitement of discovery. "But what secrets lie beneath the tile, under the velvet veil?" Kwali nodded, his eyes gleaming with the satisfaction of a mentor who watched a student grasp the essence of a lesson. "Indeed, Alara, the wisdom of the ancients are as subtle as shadows on a moonlit night. They guide us to truths that are not easily discerned by the untrained eye." Alara closed her eyes, shutting out the voices of the room. She focused her thoughts, her mind a clear pool of still water, reflecting every object she had ever encountered. The square beneath the velvet hinted of familiarity, of the solid and unchanging. Yet there was something more, a hint of the ethereal and untouchable. She pictured the square tile in her mind's eye, a canvas for the ancients to paint upon. With a sudden burst of insight, she exclaimed, "It is a kickball, a child's plaything, simple yet profound in its symmetry." "Yes, the mind's eye is indeed a curious instrument," Kwali said, lifting the velvet to reveal a worn ball below. "But is it truly a plaything, or does it hold a deeper significance?" Adana stepped forward, the flow of her robes echoing her graceful movements. "The kickball, as you call it, is a symbol of unity," she explained, her words as precise as the strokes of a master painter. "It is a sphere, a shape that knows no corners, no divisions." "But why," Alara pondered aloud, "would something so ordinary hold such significance?" "Ah, young seer," Kwali's eyes twinkled, It is not the object that holds the power, but the story it carries. This is a relic from a time when our people were as one, bound by the bonds of unity. It was a symbol of peace and harmony, a reminder that even in the throes of battle, we share a common heart. Alara took the ball into her hands, feeling the wisdom of the ancients pulse through her fingertips. The leather was as worn as the pages of a beloved book. I see, she murmured, her voice a soft echo of the events that had led her to this moment. Your trial's first session has come to an end, young seer, Kuali proclaimed. Today you have danced with the echoes of perception. Tomorrow, you shall waltz with the symphony of memory to see how you perceive these past visions and events. For now, let us depart, and allow your mind to steep in today's lesson. The week that unfolded was a whirlwind of challenges, each trial testing a different facet of her being. The challenges grew more complex, demanding she navigate a labyrinth of puzzles that looked into her own past, her emotions, and the very essence of her soul. Yet, amidst the rigor of her training, the bonds of camaraderie grew stronger, woven into the fabric of each day's end. As the sun dipped below the horizon on the final evening of her first week, some of the villagers gathered in the grand clearing of the grove. The air was alive with anticipation, a heavy mix of excitement and the promise of rest. The following morning the children of the grove, their eyes bright with hope and ambition, greeted Alara with cheerful shouts. They had prepared a series of games, a tapestry of laughter and joy that would weave together the threads of their shared destiny. These days of recess were to be a part of each weekend during her trials, giving her a respite, a relief from a bewildering week. The first game was as ancient as the grove itself, a dance of agility and balance known as the studious walk. The children formed a line, each holding a twig of the sacred tree, the songs of the ancients pulsing through the wood. They had to traverse a series of floating stepping stones without touching the water below, a challenge that spoke of the guardians, harmony with the land. Alara watched with a mix of admiration and apprehension, her heart swelling with the vestige of her ancestors' pride. The children of the grove moved with the grace of a leopard, their feet a silent breeze that guided them. Their laughter chimed with the innocent abandon of youth, a symphony that filled the clearing with joy. Yes, the joys of youth, Alara said, her eyes shining with the warmth of remembered days. Their spirits are as bright as the stars that wink at us each night, reminding us of the endless possibilities that lie within our grasp. The second week, the trials of the mind continued. There were a labyrinth of riddles, each more enigmatic than the last. She was presented with puzzles that spoke of ancient wisdom, puzzles that spoke of the interconnectivity of life, and visions that challenged the very fabric of her thoughts. Alara's brow furrowed in concentration as she studied the ancient tome that lay open before her in the Iwadi library, its pages as brittle as the bones of the ancients themselves. Now, child, Alara said, her voice a gentle caress. The words of the ancients are as complex as the roots of the sacred tree. They wind and twist, revealing truths only to those who dare to follow their meandering path. The trials that followed were a veritable cornucopia of intellectual challenges, a smorgasbord of puzzles that spoke of ancient wisdom. Each day, Alara found her mind stretched tauter than the bowstrings that spoke the guardians' prowess in the hunt. Yet, she tackled each conundrum with the tenacity of a detective on the trail of a cunning foe, her thoughts darting and weaving like the shadows of the forest creatures. The third week of trials focused on the body, pushing Alara to her physical limits. The trials evaluate the mind, body and spirit, over 2 weeks for each, and on the 7th week all 3 evaluations, mind, body and spirit would be combined to test her progress. She scaled the ancient trees, their limbs urging her to reach for the heavens, and raced the swiftest rivers, their rapids telling her to trust in her strength. Her muscles built up endurance, and her skin grew as tough as the bark that shielded her from the world. By the end of the 3rd week Alara's body ached in places she had not sensation before, and felt fatigue that proved paramount to ease over her other needs. Ah, young Alara, your muscles are loud today, aren't they? Alara said with a knowing smile. Alara nodded, her limbs protesting with every movement. The trials of the body had indeed been rigorous, pushing her to heights of physicality that she had never dreamt of. Her breath came in ragged pants as she leaned against the ancient tree that had borne witness to countless generations of guardians. The words of the ancients that usually brought comfort now seemed to mock her weariness. Yes, the pangs of fatigue, Alara said. They are but the echoes of your growing strength, a reminder of the battles won and the battles yet to come. Alara looked up at her mentor, her eyes as weary as a 1,000-year-old tree. I fear I may not be up to the final week's trials. She confessed with a sigh. My body feels as if it has been through the wringer of time itself. Adana responds with a gentle smile and says, "Ah, young seer, the pangs of fatigue are but the overture to the symphony of strength that is about to crescendo within you." She placed a hand on Alara's shoulder, her touch a comforting embrace. "Rest now, for the day after tomorrow, you shall face the final week of the trials of the body, and when you do, I suspect you shall find yourself dancing with the ancients themselves." The final week of the trials dawned with the words of the ancients more insistent than ever. The swimming trials proved to be Alara's most daunting challenge yet. The waters of the grove carried ancient currents that seemed to push and pull at her, as if trying to keep her from uncovering the knowledge that lay beneath the surface. Yet, she persevered, her limbs slicing through the water as a knife would through warm butter, each stroke carrying her closer to her destiny. "Yes, young seer, swim like the seals," Duembe called out, the instructor of this trial, his voice clear through the mist of the early morning. "You dance with the water as gracefully as the fish of the grove's deepest pools." Alara emerged from the water, her body singing with exertion. Yet, there was a lightness to her step, an energy that seemed to defy her week of rigorous physical challenges. She felt the echoes of the ancients within her, a wellspring of vitality that had been unlocked by her trials. The weekend had come, a time of rest and reflection, and she found herself drawn to the laughter of the children as they played in the grand clearing. Their giggles were like the babble of a brook, bubbling with innocence and joy. She approached them, her smile as bright as the sun's kiss on the water's surface. "Ah, young seer," called out a cheeky young girl, "will you join us in the dance of the wind?" Alara looked up from her contemplative stance beside the ancient tree, the leaves playing a sweet melody. "Indeed, I shall," she said enthusiastically. The children's eyes grew wide, their excitement hushed as she took her place among them. The game was a breeze, yet as complex as the emotions that swirled within her. They spoke a word, and it was her turn to interpret it, to weave it into a tale that captured the essence of the guardian's spirit. "Elevate," the young girl said in a soft voice. Alara closed her eyes and took a deep breath, letting the words of the ancients wash over her. "Yes," she began, her voice a gentle crescendo. "The gentle breeze speaks of freedom and flight." The children leaned in, their anticipation hanging in the air. They watched her, their faces a canvas of wonder and curiosity, as she spun a tale of a young guardian who discovered the strength to soar on the wind. Her words, carrying the children's imagination to the skies. "Home," Alara whispered to herself as she lay in the embrace of her pallet that night, the songs of the ancients a lullaby in the background. The thought of Vonderwood, her father's warm embrace, and the comforting warmth of her own room brought a pang of longing to her chest, sharp as a splinter from the sacred tree. Yet, she knew she could not turn back, not now. Her destiny lay before her, winding but deep, like the roots of the tree. The following 2 weeks she underwent trials of the spirit, a journey to find the strength within herself, combining the mental and emotional sides of her. It was during this time of soul-searching she started to get homesick. Her thoughts often drifted to the comforting words of her father's stories, the warm embrace of the familiar, and the quiet solace of Vonderwood. Each day brought forth new challenges that spoke to the very core of her being, demanding she peer into the abyss of her soul and find the light within. The trials of the spirit were as subtle as the wind, yet as powerful as the roar of a tempest. They spoke to her fears, her doubts, her anger, and her rage, coaxing them to the surface to be confronted. Yet, as with the leaves that bow to the storm before returning to their natural grace, she faced each emotion, studying it as a scientist studies a specimen, until she understood its essence. The visions grew more complex, painting a tapestry of her thoughts and feelings, challenging her to unravel the threads that bound her. "Ah, young seer," Adana said one evening, "the rustling of your soul are as tumultuous as the waves upon a moonlit shore." Alara nodded, her eyes reflecting the internal storm she felt. The trials had indeed been as relentless as the tides, each challenge a wave that threatened to overwhelm her. Yet, as the steadfast rock that withstands the ocean's fury, she had found a way to stand firm. Her emotions were a tempest, a maelstrom of doubt and anger, yet she had learned to navigate the stormy waters of her psyche with the grace of a seasoned mariner. The pulses grew quieter now, more introspective, as if they had exhausted their tumultuous symphony and awaited her response. She took a deep breath, feeling the essence of the ancients coil around her, speaking of her progress. Her heart swelled with the pride of a warrior who had faced her demons and emerged victorious.
Alara has faced the first leg of her trials. Will her legs hold enough strength to support her for the remainder of her challenges, and how will she cope with this sudden and deep yearning for home? Find these answers and more in Chapter 11, An Eye into the Familiar,